actually watched Sanditon Season 2, Episode 1 last night. Ask me how I feel about it. I watched it yesterday with my friends, and afterwards we talked about it, you know, like dissected, used our degrees and things like that. And I said, I'm so angry that I might go home and just record my feelings because I just, but by the time I got back, it was 11 o'clock and my roommate had to get up early today. And so I was like, okay, I'll like sleep on it. I won't record because I'm a nice person. I'll just do it tomorrow. It would have been quite funny though to watch me ramble at 11:30 at night filled with rage. But don't worry, you'll get in this episode too. It's just a little more, it's not even gonna be cohesive. And also, I don't know if this season deserves me to write out my feelings because they sure didn't do it for me. I'd like to start off by saying that I've only watched one episode and there's probably going to be like 6 or 8. So, you know, like there's hope. You know, it could get better. I really hope it does. So the thesis of this argument, thought process, is Bridgerton was released and everyone loved it, and Sanditon said, oh, we should probably copy it so our viewers are still engaged. Spoiler alert, it was the wrong move. So firstly, if you don't know Sanditon, I highly recommend you go watch it. It is on PBS. Get a little account, watch it. It's like 8 episodes, an hour long. You guys do it all the time, it's fine. But it's based on an unwritten work by our Lord and Savior, Jane Austen. It's like 20 pages long and really doesn't have a lot to go off of. PBS, BBC, Masterpiece saw this and said, what if we made a miniseries? And they did. And it was awesome. The first 7 episodes anyway. The 8th one is awful, but like in a good way. And if you don't want to watch those 8 episodes, first of all, shame on you. Secondly, a quick rundown is, it's about this girl named Charlotte Hayward who rescues a couple when their carriage breaks down. It turns out that these two are the owners of a place called Sanditon, which is like a seaside resort. Charlotte is invited to go there as payment for saving them, and the lovable Jane Austen antics ensue. There's a brooding love interest, there's a kind love interest, there's a best friend, there's money and drama and balls, and it's fun. The first season came out in January 2020 in the US, and it didn't receive great reviews, so like there wasn't really talk of a second season or continuing, which of course my friend and I were utterly distraught, and many other people, because there were a lot of fans that were signing in petitions and trying to get people to watch this and kind of gain traction and things like that. And last night after we watched the episode, my friend was like, it feels like they watched Bridgerton and saw the success of that and how many fans enjoyed that and felt like they needed to copy it and felt like they needed to emulate Bridgerton more for this series. I feel like she's right. And like, I don't know when season 2 was written or how long it took them to write or whatever happened behind closed doors. But there's a lot of stuff in the episode, which I may or may not get to depending on if my brain remembers, that really emulates Bridgerton, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not Jane Austen. Like, Bridgerton is Bridgerton, Jane Austen is Jane Austen. They can coexist, but they are not on the same tonal field. And it seems like season 2 of Sanditon is going to be straying farther and farther away from inspired by Jane Austen's works. Which is fine, just don't tell me that it's based on Sanditon anymore, because it's clearly not. I don't care if it's like inspired by the first 20 pages of Jane Austen's Sanditon and then we decided to take free will of it. Fine, whatever. Death to the author. But like, stop pretending that it's still Jane Austen, because it's not. Anyway, maybe I should start telling you guys why it's not Jane Austen anymore and why I dislike this episode so much and why I feel like the rest of the season is not going to be great. Great, so here we go. For starters, half the cast didn't return. The way that season 1 ends is fairly open-ended. You can go a lot of different routes with these characters, which is great. We love that. But they go ahead and just like sweep things under the rug. And a few of them were just these one-liners. They're like, oh, they're away, or they're this, or they're doing that. But what they decided to do in episode 1 is just like make one of the characters dead? Like, what? Freaking pissed. I'm so angry about this because it wasn't necessary. It was not necessary. If you're gonna go with a more realistic adaptation of Jane Austen works, like how it probably would have happened in the 1800s Regency era versus like, you know, a romanticized version of the 1800s Regency era, that's cool, that's fine. Love that for us. You had it there. So keep it. You don't have to make such dramatic choices to cover up that actors don't want to come back or actors weren't available or whatever the situation was. It just makes the story feel that much less of a one-shot narrative, if that makes sense. I guess it feels less like a novel and more like a TV series, which, like, chill, whatever. But the whole premise of the show to begin with was that novel narrative. Like, you're writing a potential storyline that Jane Austen would have written. So why is it not like that anymore? So yeah, half the cast is gone, which is so dumb. And we get introduced to even more characters, which is great and fine. I don't care, but you shove them into the first episode while also trying to explain why half the cast isn't there anymore. Like, it doesn't work. I understand that you want to sort of set the tone and the premise and the setting and the world building that you're going to be creating in this series, which, great, love that. But you don't need to do it in the first episode. It's just the first episode seemed to shoehorn all this exposition that wasn't necessarily necessary for the first episode. And also, now that I think about it, Charlotte coming back doesn't make sense. In the last episode, Charlotte leaves Sanditon. Like, she goes back home. And in season 2, she returns, which, yay, we have a show. But, like, I'm trying to remember why she's back, and I don't quite remember other than, like, they want, you know, to be together, be sad together. I guess the more I'm thinking about it, the more I don't understand that motivation. Again, I don't want to get into spoiler territory, so I'm not going to say much. It just seems odd, the choices they made to get all the characters back into one place. But I don't know, maybe I need to watch it again. I'm not going to. I don't want to. I might. Who knows? I already have to watch Infinity War and Endgame 2 more times than I want to, so why not torture myself even more? Anyway, back to all these new characters we have. One of my friends made a comment that she can't tell the difference between all the new blonde people on the show, and honestly, she's got a point. I do not remember their names. Charlotte's sister is here, which is cool. I think she was supposed to be a minor character in season 1, but it didn't happen for whatever reason. But she's back for season 2, and she is here to get a man. We have Mordred, the Colonel, and Dairy Girl look-alike. We also have Mr. Rochester. So Mordred is an artiste. It seems like he's going to be getting involved with Miss Lamb, which is cool. I guess I really don't care either way. Their personalities match. Part of me still wishes that she would end up with, what's his face? The Parker brother. You know who I'm talking about. Because they're buddies and they're friends, and I just think it'd be so great for them to end up together. But they already mentioned that it's not going to happen, so tear, but I'm still going to hold out hope. Anyway, Mordred and Miss Lamb it seems like the show's indicating that they're going to at least have a relationship. Whether they're endgame or not is yet to be seen. But that brings up another thing in this episode. A lot of the main characters, of course, are women. The whole episode, while trying to shoehorn in exposition, is also trying to shove in all this ideology about marriage. Of course, back then, women had to marry for money, land, and power. And our good friends, Miss Lamb and Charlotte, talk a lot about how they don't want to get married. Miss Lamb seems to be more on the ideology that she would like to get married, but she doesn't want to because of all of these very logical reasons. Miss Hayward, on the other hand, Charlotte, because of all of the BS she had to deal with in season 1, she seems to be resolved not to marry, which, cool, love that. And obviously that's not going to happen because Charlotte's our main character in a Jane Austen novel, so she's going to end up with somebody. Not the person I wanted, but it's fine. Or even the person that I cared for, but it's fine. But it really seems like the show is trying to push all of these different ideas about marriage when we all know that everyone's going to end up with somebody. My hope is that they do a similar tone shift as what they did with, oh gosh, I can't remember her name now. Why do I not remember? Esther. It's Esther. I had a best friend named Esther. In season 1, Esther kind of she has a lot that she goes through. Everyone in the show goes through a lot. But her sort of outlook on the world shifts a little bit. And it's lovely because she grows into a better person, and it's lovely to see. Some of that worldview was related to marriage. I have a feeling they're going to handle Georgiana just fine, so I'm not worried about her. I'm more worried about Charlotte because, like I said, this girl has decided to not be a wife. She wants to get employed, she wants to have the job, she wants to be taking care of herself. She doesn't want any of that marriage, man, ring on the finger stuff, which great. Love that for us. I just had a thought And I'm not sure if this is what the storytellers are going for, or if this is a connection I'm making, or if I just know Jane Austen and I just know that she has to end up with somebody. If she doesn't end up with somebody, I might cry. Not because I don't think she should end up with somebody, but just because, again, I came into this expecting Jane Austen. So I want my feisty, independent woman to end up with a man, dude, that cares for her and loves her and thinks she's cool. And if I can't have that... Anyway, my thought that clicked together was they started hinting a little bit at Charlotte's feelings and how she's like really feeling about, you know, being back in Sanditon, how it's been after a year, blah, 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 blah. And I think part of the reason she has resolved to be a spinster is because of the events that happened in season 1, which is a very logical leap of deduction. What I think is going to happen is most of this season, because they're also slated for a season 3. Can we talk about that? Can we talk about it for a hot second? They're slated for a season 3. Why? Half your cast isn't back. You're like rambling the story into like some soap opera stuff. What are you gonna do? Add more men? Anyway, I feel like this season, or the first part of this season, is going to be Charlotte wrestling with those feelings that she has. That maybe she isn't resolved not to marry, she's just trying to process not being able to marry the man that she loved, or the man that she was also kind of sort of in love with. Because honestly, I don't love any of the new male interests that they have introduced into the show. Like, Mordred is fine. The guy who looks like Dairy Girls is also gonna be probably fine because he's a kid. I'm worried about the Colonel and Mr. Rochester because I have a feeling that they're gonna be not to my liking, which is cool, which is fine. I just don't think I'm gonna like them in terms of being Charlotte's love interest. Because it's very obvious that Charlotte still has some unresolved feelings for things that happened that last year in Sanditon, I'm wondering if maybe this season is going to focus on her more, wrestling with those feelings and not necessarily ending up with anybody, but like, you know, facing that conflict of like, how do I actually feel about marriage? Because I don't really want to marry anybody. Is that because I legitimately don't really want to, or is it because I can't marry the man that I love, or like the man that I thought I loved, or like, I don't know, like I don't get a choice in it. Her eyes have been even more opened to the unfairness and like the realities of the world in getting married, which is what Georgiana has been pestering about since season 1, episode 1, so go her. Anyway, these new characters. Colonel Guy. There's something slimy about him. I don't know if I like him. Mr. Rochester. Mr. Rochester. I think he'll be a very interesting look as to the grief portion of what Charlotte's going to be dealing with, because in the show, he has lost his wife. I don't know how far back. And then Dairy Girls Guy. I talked about him a little bit. I'm not worried about him. He's a child. But yeah, it just seems like they really didn't want to stay on the whole Jane Austen romantic period piece. Which, enter Bridgerton! Now, I've seen Bridgerton. It was pretty alright. But yeah, Bridgerton came out and the whole world flipped the lid. Sanditon came out in early 2020, January, because I watched it in January with my friend. Bridgerton came out toward the end of the year, I believe. Yes, maybe. Yes, it did come out in the latter part of 2020. Bridgerton also seems to be tackling the themes of marriage and what it means to love and be in love. You know, the partnership that marriage is and the reasoning to go into marriage. But Bridgerton also likes to be saucy and spicy, and that definitely is in the forefront of that production. That's cool if that's your thing, that's fine. But Bridgerton seemed to set this standard for what modern period pieces needed to be, that your plot and setting is set in a time period piece, but a lot of the dressing perhaps, or the music and the writing is all very modernized, and like when it's done well, it's a cool blend. Like I think Bridgerton does a nice job of blending the two things, and like it's a fun niche. Like it's really fun to have these like fun period pieces that don't necessarily take themselves so seriously, and it's also easy to follow along, and for people who don't necessarily understand a lot of the older context of period pieces, it's an easy narrative to follow. But like the hype around Bridgerton and like the absolute meltdown that people had with that show, unreal. And going back to what my friend said, it seems like Sanditon kind of fell into that. Whether it was intentionally or unintentionally, I don't really know, but the whole feeling and vibe of the first episode really kind of felt like it was trying to emulate Bridgerton, but also remain like true to the historical setting of it. But the decision to kind of branch out and kind of like throw more characters in and be more intense on other characters besides Charlotte, like Charlotte didn't even feel like the main character in the first episode. Like, she's our main character, yo. And that's not to say you can't flesh out your minor characters or your supporting characters and you can't have episodes dedicated to them, because you can, and that's fine, and that's good even. But in this first episode, to kind of throw everything all at once and kind of serve it to us on a platter going, here, take it, this is what you wanted, right? It's like, yes, but actually, it just seems like they're spiraling into a formula that doesn't work. That seems harsh. Again, I've only seen the first episode, but it really does seem that they're straying away from this sort of grounded realism of a period piece and going for that sort of Bridgerton-esque, like, hyper-stylized type of romance, which again, that's fine. That's totally fine. It's just not what I signed up for when I watched Sanditon. If I want that hyper-stylized historical period piece, I'm gonna watch The Great or Bridgerton. It just makes me so frustrated because it feels so different from season 1. And part of it is because you don't have a lot of the original cast, and part of it is because you're throwing in all of these new characters that I have to learn about and maybe care for. And you're adding all of these like different mysteries and plots and romances, which again, that's fine. I don't care. I love it. But like, this is not what I signed up for when I wanted a Jane Austen-inspired TV show. It just feels like they're trying so many different things. I think maybe that's it. It just makes me so angry. I'm gonna have to watch it too. I'm gonna have to watch all of the seasons, episodes. I wanted a season 2. I wanted to have a season 2 so badly. And then I found out that some of these people weren't coming back. And then I was like, oh, maybe I don't want one anymore, because like, where's all the plot and the tension gonna come from? And then you're introducing all these new characters, so that's where the tension is. But also, it's like tension that has to be built up again. And like, if you're gonna keep these characters for season 3, then that's fine, whatever. All my arguments are moot. But we have to start over again. And I don't want to start over again because it's season 2! Is it too early to do a Riddler reference? Because no! This was not how it was supposed to go! Finally, in conclusion, I did not like episode 1. I really want to like episodes 2 through however many there are. I have a feeling it's going to fall more into a Bridgerton period soap drama series than a Jane Austen novel period piece series, which is okay. It's fine. It was just not what I was expecting, so I'm having trouble adjusting. But yeah, let me know what you think. I have a lot of thoughts. I'm gonna go now. Bye! No! I can't even do it. Because no! I can't even do it. Should have caught me at 11 o'clock last night. I was doing that.